Landmark in Nepali forestry. Forest extraction work started in 1933 मा इस्टाब्लिस एक्सट्र्याक्सन फरेस्ट डिपार्टमेन्ट 42 फरेस्ट वर्किङ स्किम स्टार्टेड 42 मा 1942 मा त्यसपछि गएर हाम्रो फरेस्ट वर्किङ स्किम स्टार्टेड 42 मा फरेस्ट डेभलपमेन्ट वर्क स्टार्टेड 1942 मा र इस्टाब्लिसमेन्ट अफ नेपाली फरेस्ट इन्स्टिट्युसन 1942 मा पोस्ट अफ चिफ फरेस्ट अफिस 1953 मा प्राइभेट फरेस्ट नेसनलाइजेसन 56 मा अफिस अफ द चिफ कन्जर्भेसन अफ फरेस्ट 59 मा डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ मेडिसिनल प्लान्ट 59 मा टिम्बर कर्पोरेसन नेपाल 60 मा वर्किङ प्लान वर्क स्टार्टेज 62 मा एन्ड त्यसपछि लार्ज स्केल प्लान्टेसन स्टार्टेड 62 मा फरेस्ट रिसोर्सेस सर्वे अफिस 63 मा नेपाल फ्युल वुड कर्पोरेसन 96 मा फरेस्ट रिसर्च वर्क स्टार्टेज 65 नेपाल फ्युल वुड कर्पोरेसन 65 मा फरेस्ट रिसर्च वर्क प्लान 65 मा डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ सोइल कन्जर्भेसन एन्ड वाटर सेट म्यानेजमेन्ट 72 मा फरेस्ट प्रडक्ट डेभलपमेन्ट बोर्ड 76 मा एन्ड 1976 है त त्यसपछि नेपाल नेसनल फरेस्ट प्लान 1976 मा 10th एपिसी एसिया पेसिफिक फरेस्ट कमिसन सिजन हेल्ड इन काठमाडौँ 1977 मा हर प्रोडक्सन एन्ड प्रोसेसिङ कोभिटी एलटिडी 1978 मा 5 रिजनल डाइरेक्टर अफ फरेस्ट 1980 मा डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ नेसनल पार्क एन्ड वाइल्ड लाइफ 1982 मा डिस्ट्रिक्ट फरेस्ट अफिस इन अल डिस्ट्रिक्ट 75 जिल्लामा 1983 मा त्यसपछि नेपाल रोजिन एन्ड टर्पेन्टाइनको कम्पनी 1987 मा फरेस्ट रिसर्च एन्ड सर्वे सेन्टर 1993 डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ फरेस्ट रिसर्च एन्ड सर्वे 1998 मा गोल्डेन जुबिली अफ फरेस्ट डिपार्टमेन्ट 2002 मा नेसनल बायोडाइभर्सिटी स्ट्र्याटेजी 2002 मा 10th प्लान 2002 देखि 2007 क्योटो प्रोटोकल अफ युएनएफसिसी 2005 मा एन्ड साइन्टिफिक एन्ड टेक्नोलोजी पोलिसी 2005 मा कन्स्टिट्युसन अफ नेपाल 2015 मा रेड इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन सेन्टर 2009 मा रेड इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन सेन्टर फरेस्ट सेक्टर स्ट्र्याटेजी 2016-25 2018 माको नेसनल फरेस्ट पोलिसी 2019 नेसनल क्लाइमेट चेन्ज पोलिसी 2021 नेसनल एग्रो फरेस्ट्री पोलिसी 2019 इम्पोर्टेन्ट डे विक सेलिब्रेसन इन नेपाल फेब्रुअरी 2 वेटल्यान्ड फेब्रुअरी 2 मार्च वर्ल्ड वाइल्ड लाइफ र सिबिएपियु डे एन्ड चैत्र 1 देखि 7 फरेस्ट फायर अवेरनेस मार्च 21 इन्टरनेसनल डे फर फरेस्ट चैत्र 29 नेसनल प्लान्ट डे वैशाख 1 देखि 7 नेसनल वाइल्ड लाइफ विक अप्रिल 22 इन्टरनेसनल मदर अर्थ डे मे 22 इन्टरनेसनल डे फर बायोलोजिकल डाइभर्सिटी जुन 5 वर्ल्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट डे असार 2 सूर्य कन्जर्भेसन डे एन्ड असार 14 नेसनल ट्री प्लान्टेसन जुन 29 इन्टरनेसनल टाइगर डे जुलाई 31 वर्ल्ड रेन्जर डे श्रावण 24 इन्टरनेसनल सोइल कन्जर्भेसन डे श्रावण 25 कम्युनिटी फरेस्ट डे सेप्टेम्बर 7 इन्टरनेसनल डे अफ क्लिन एयर असोज 7 नेसनल कन्जर्भेसन डे अक्टोबर 23 इन्टरनेसनल साउ लियोपार्ड डे डिसेम्बर 11 इन्टरनेसनल माउन्टेन डे Inventory of policy and plan on climate change management in Nepal. ओके के त कन्स्टिट्युसन 2015 कन्स्टिट्युसन नेपाल कन्स्टिट्युएन्ट एसेम्ब्ली 2072 छ 3 एन्ड 2021 नेपाली लङ टर्म स्ट्राटेजी फर नेट जिरो इमिसन 2021 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल क्याबिनेट 2078 7 महिना 9 गते 2019 नेसनल क्लाइमेट चेन्ज पोलिसी 2019 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल 2076 5 महिना 4 गते एन्ड 2018 मा चाहिँ नेसनल रेड प्लान्ट प्लस स्ट्राटेजी 2018 मिनिस्ट्री अफ फरेस्ट एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट 2075 1 महिना छ प्लान गाइडलाइन्स 2024 16th प्लान 2081 82 2085 86 नेसनल प्लानिङ कमिसन 2081 2 महिना 1 गते 2023 इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन प्लान 2080 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल क्याबिनेट 2080 4 महिना 16 गते क्लाइमेट चेन्ज हेल्थ एडप्टेसन स्ट्राटेजी एन्ड प्लान मिनिस्ट्री अफ हेल्थ एन्ड पपुलेसन 2023 एन्ड 2021 नेसनल एडप्टेसन प्लान 2021 देखि 2050 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल 2078 देखि 7 महिना 9 गते 2021 क्लाइमेट चेन्ज रिलेटेड जेस्ट स्ट्राटेजी एन्ड एक्सन प्लान 2077 देखि 2087 मिनिस्ट्री अफ फरेस्ट एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट मिनिस्ट्री अफ फरेस्ट एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट 2077 देखि 9 महिना 23 गते 3 गते 2021 गाइडलाइन्स फर प्लानिङ क्लाइमेट चेन्ज म्यानेजमेन्ट अन फरेस्ट एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट सेक्टर 2077 मिनिस्ट्री अफ फरेस्ट एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट 2077 9 महिना 3 गते 2020 सेकेन्ड नेसनल डिटरमाइन्ड कन्ट्रिब्युसन एनडिसी नेसनली डिटरमाइन्ड कन्ट्रिब्युसन 2 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल 2077 8 23 एन्ड एक्ट एन्ड रेगुलेसन 2018 में इन्भाइरोमेन्टल प्रोटेक्सन एक्ट 2076 फेडरल पार्लियामेन्ट 2076 1 महिना 7 महिना 1 गते एन्ड इयर 2019 इन्भाइरोमेन्टल प्रोटेक्सन रेगुलेसन 2077 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल 2077 3 महिना 1 गते फ्रेमवर्कमा चाहिँ नेसनल फ्रेमवर्क अन क्लाइमेट चेन्ज इन्ड्युस लस एन्ड ड्यामेज 2021 गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल 2078 7 महिना 9 गते 2019 नेसनल फ्रेमवर्क के अन लोकल एडप्टेसन P1 एन्ड फर एक्सन रिभाइज भयो गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल 2076 एन्ड 2017 क्लाइमेट चेन्ज फाइनान्सिङ फ्रेमवर्क CCFF 2017 मिनिस्ट्री अफ फाइनान्स 2017 एन्ड अदर इम्पोर्टेन्ट डकुमेन्ट 2024 नेपाल ग्रिन फाइनान्स ट्याक्सोनोमी एन्ड GFT नेपाल राष्ट्र ब्याङ्क 2024 2022 नेसनल क्लाइमेट चेन्ज सर्वे नेसनल स्ट्याटिक्स 2022 एन्ड 2021 vulnerability and risk assessment and identifying adaptation option BRA Ministry of Forest and Environment June 21 2022 technology need assessment for climate change mitigation TNA CCM Ministry of Federal and Environment August 21 2020 में चाहिँ 2021 में टेक्नोलोजी नीड एसेसमेंट फर क्लाइमेट चेन्ज एडेप्टेसन TNA CCA मिनिस्ट्री अफ फरेस्ट एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट अगस्त 2021 एन्ड नेपाल थर्ड नेशनल कम्युनिकेसन टू द यूनाइटेड नेशन फ्रेमवर्क कन्भेन्सन अन क्लाइमेट चेन्ज TNC मिनिस्ट्री अफ फरेस्ट एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट 2021 एन्ड 2016मा नेपाल सस्टेनेबल डेभलपमेन्ट गोल स्ट्याटस एन्ड रोडम्याप 2016देखि 2030 नेसनल प्लानिङ कमिसन 2016ले एन्ड 2012 क्लाइमेट चेन्ज बजेट कोड CCBD 2012मा नेसनल प्लानिङ कमिसन 2012ले 2011 नेपाल क्लाइमेट पब्लिक एक्सपेन्डिचर एन्ड इन्टरनेसनल रिभ्यू CPEIR नेसनल प्लानिङ कमिसन 2011 एन्ड 2010मा चाहिँ नेसनल एडप्टेसन प्रोग्राम अफ एक्सन NAPA टु क्लाइमेट चेन्ज मिनिस्ट्री पपुलेसन एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्ट 2010 एन्ड 2000 यिनी चाहिँ नेपालमा प्रचलित सङ्घीय तथा प्रादेशिक वन ऐनहरूमा चाहिँ यो चाहिँ हामीले स्क्यानिङ गर्न सकिन्छ। वन ऐन 2076 सङ्घ प्रदेश वन ऐन 2077 कोशी मधेसको वन ऐन 77 र बागमती प्रदेश राष्ट्रिय वन ऐन 2076 गण्डकीको प्रदेश वन ऐन 2080 गण्डकी प्रदेश वन ऐन 2078 लुम्बिनी एन्ड कर्णाली प्रदेश वन ऐन 2078 कर्णाली सुदूरपश्चिम प्रदेश वन ऐन 2077 सुदूरपश्चिम 2081 12 महिना 3मा अध्यावधिक गरिएको। एन्ड ग्लोसरी एक्रोन द नट एक्रोन भनेको के त द नट अफ द ओक एन्ड देयर क्लोज रिलेटिभ्स जेनेरा क्वेर्कस एन्ड लिथोकार्पस इन द फ्यामिली फागासिया इट युजली कन्टेन one seed, okay, occasionally two seed, and enclosed in tough leathery cells and bronze in a cup shaped cupules. Adaptation genetic or phenotypic response by individual or population to an environment so as to enhance fitness. Afforestation planting of tree on land that historically have not contained forest or the direct human induced conversion of that has not been forest for a period of at least 50 years to forest land through planting, seedling, and or the human induced promotion of natural seed source is known as afforestation. And after ripening, some seed once fallen or when collect undergo natural biochemical or physical change while in storage, which are often necessary for subsequent germination. Agroecology, the application of ecological principle to the production of food, fuel, fiber, and pharmaceutical is known as agroecology. And agroecosystems, okay, agroecosystem, an entire ecological system comprise indigenous agricultural activity and the biological, genetic, and cultural process that support allopathy, referring to population, species, or other taxa occupying different and disjointed geographical region. Anthropogenic, it is related to the influence of human beings or their ancient or natural subject. Arboretum, a collection of specimen tree preferably growing close to a nursery for which seed and cutting can easily be gathered. And bed, especially prepared for of ground in a nursery where the seed is sown or into which transplant seedling or cutting are put. Biocarbon, the carbon sequestrated and stored in the world tree planted plant soil and oceans is known as biocarbon because it is carbon sequenced biologically. Biodiversity, full range of variety and variability within and among living organisms, their association and habitat oriented ecological complex. Okay. Biome classification of communities and ecosystem based on their convergent features due to similarities in environment. Biosphere reserve, bioreserve, natural reserves, wilderness parks, or other protected habitat allow indigenous human cultural and societies to continue traditional resources. Biota, all living organisms of an area, flora and fauna considered a unit and uh, are known as biota. Bottlenecks, population bottlenecks, an episode of the dynamic reduction in population size due to either the environmental stress or a colonization event. British th- thermal unit BTU, it is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 lb of water by 8 degree Fahrenheit. And अर्को छ calica bags. These are seed stores bag made of rough unbleached cotton, usually with a pull tie. They are commonly used for the storage of seed. Calorie, unit of heat, defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, and is the scientific unit of quantity of heat. Calorific value, the amount of heat given out by the burning unit weight of dry wood. Capsule or dry fruit formed from a multi-sectioned ovary. And carbon footprint, the total set of greenhouse gas emission uh, causes by an organization, event or product is known as carbon footprint. Carbon sequestration, the process of removing carbon from the atmosphere and deposit it in a reservoirs is known as carbon sequestration. Carbon sinks or carbon pool that is increase in size is known as carbon sink. A carbon pool that is increasing in size is known as a carbon sinks. A carbon pool can be a sinks for atmosphere carbon if more carbon is flowing to it that out of it during a given time interval. Carbon stocks, the quantity of carbon held within a pool, okay, known as carbon stock. It is measured in metric ton of CO2. Catkin, a spike formed from a pendulous primary axis bearing floors of one sex. Chap, the aborted aborted seed and dislodged wings. Bracts and segment become mixed with the seed with it is extended. And cheat cites sheet, a method of storing and dispatching seed of short viability such as Quercus and Castornopsis species. Clone, okay, clone, individual derived by non-sexual vegetation means from a common parent. Clump, a collection of clumps, e.g. bamboo. Colonization, successful invasion of a newly created habitat, successful requirement in gap. And community types, distinct and definable unit of the natural landscapes such as freshwater, marsh, perennial bunch, grassland, thorn shrubs. Community, collection of organisms of different species that occurs in the same habitat or region and then that interact through trophic and spatial relationships. Conservation, judicious use and management of nature and natural resources for the benefit of human society and ethical resources reason. And container plant are often growing in individual container to minimize root disturbance when transferred from nursery to field. Container can be made of clay, terracotta, polythene tubes, or any other suitable materials. Short length of bamboo leaves pot, duna, coffee shoot. Any shoot arise from the base of a woody plant that has been recently cut back. And and corridor, it is a more or less continuous connection between adjacent raw stream and irrigation ditch. Critical in danger or taxon is critical when facing an extremely high probability of extinction in the wild in the immediate future. Clump, a stream of grass, bamboo, or a shed is typically hollow between the nodes. Clump, okay. Damping up, it is a term used to describe the action of parasite soil fungi which cause the rooting of seedling before or soon after germination. Deforestation, conservation of forest to non-forest. Okay. Disequi- disequilibrium, a condition where community structure is continuously changing in terms of patches, patch, occupancy, local extinction, and decolonization. Disequilibrium, community forestry structure चाहिँ चेन्ज हुनु प्यासेजमा. Diversity, ecological means based on the number of species and their relative abundance in a community. Drupe, a succulent fruit with a hard stone enclosing a single seed. Ecological footprint, a measure of human demand on the ecosystem, is known as the ecological footprint. Ecological gradient, change of environmental features along some environmental gradient. And ecosystem, integrated set of biological component making up a biotic community and its biotic environment. And ecotone, landscape boundaries that exist between two or more adjacent community or habitat, also known as edge effect, process that characterize habitat fragmentation and the concomitant creation of edge adapted species, plant and animal taxa that spend some portion of their life within ecosystem. Ecotone, endangered, or taxon is endangered when it is not critical but faces a very high risk of extinction in the wild in the near future. Endemic, native or restricted to a limited or particular geographical region. Enhancement, management techniques using seedling transplantation, fencing, watershed manipulation that attempt to restore to pre-disturbance condition those areas that are only particularly disturbed by human influence. In situ conservation of plant and animal tags are their biological materials, seed, embryo, DNA away from their natural habitat. Extincts, or toxic or toxin taxon is extinct when there is no reasonable doubt that its last individual has died in the country. Extinction, the process by which an individual species or population disappear from a given habitat or biota. And gene conservation, the conservation of genetic resources, gene for future use. Gene pool, the total genetic material of a freshly interbreeding population. And gene, the basic unit of inheritance that codes for a genetically controlled character. And genetic diversity, measure of genetic variation calculated from allelic frequency and their combination. Germination, the seed is said to have germinated when the primary plant root emerges from the test seed coat. And habitat degradation, the decline in habitat quality that accompanies non-natural forms of disturbance. Hardening of, the process by which young seedlings are prepared for transplanting or planting out by gradually reducing water and or shade, and thus causing change in the leading shoot that render it more resistant to drought and cold. Heritability, the degree to which a character is influenced by heredity gene as compared to the environment. And hotspot hotspot area that have a internationally important assemblage of flora and fauna element. In situ planning, this is a sowing techniques where seed or cutting are planted directly into pit or row in the field where they are to grow to maturity. In breeding, the mating of close relatives is the mating of individual likely to share some of their gene due to common ancestry. In situ conservation of individual species or habitat in their place of origin and natural occurrence. Joule, it is a unit of work or energy. Keystone species that serve as keystone resources. Their removal from an ecosystem lead to secure dysfunctioning or even collapse of an ecosystem balance. Moisture content, air dried, it is the minimum point that moisture content could be reduced by air dried. And moisture condition dried, the amount of moisture contained in a wood sample is expressed as a percentage of oven dry weight. Moisture content weight base, the amount of moisture contained in a wood sample is expressed as a percentage of green weight. Niche, the ecological role of a species in a community is known niche. Opportunity cost is the cost related to the next best choice available to someone who has picked among several mutually exclusive choices. And plus 3, a tree that has been recommended for population or breeding use. Following grading, it all it appear phenotypically desirable but has not yet been tested for its genetic character. And primary forest other wooded land of native species where there are no clearly visible indication of human activity and the ecological process are not significantly disturbed. Progeny, offspring, descendant, offspring, descendant, progeny systems, protected area system, all area officially designated with the protection of biodiversity as the main objective. Province, the locality and environment to which the plant parent tree are native and to which their genetic makeup has been adapted through natural selection. reforestation, planting a forest on land that have previously contained forest but that has been converted to some other use. Rhizome, okay, these are generally modified stems bamboo and other monocotyledon which grow along but below the ground surface, producing root, scales, leaves and suckers, repaining some seed when fallen or when collected undergo natural biochemical or physical change while in storage with are often necessary for subsequent germination. Root 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 wrenching, the several severing of the lateral and deeper root of plant raised to in bed enclose the development of a shoot fibrous root system. Root stock or seedling onto which a scion is budded or grafted. Scion, the vegetative parent material budded or grafted to a root stocks. Secondary forest or degraded forest is a secondary forest. एउटा degraded forestलाई चाहिँ secondary forest भनिन्छ, that has been lost through human activity. The structure, function, species composition or productivity normally associated with a natural forest type expected on that site. Seed box, okay, अब छ seed box. Seed boxes, boxes containing a suitable soil moisture over which fine seed are grown. Seed orchard, a plantation of seed clone, a plantation of seed selected clone or progenies is isolated and maintained to produce frequent, abundant and easily harvested crop of seed. Singling, forest management practice removing multiple trunk of tree, leaving ultimately on trunk. Stable table, the distribution of the number of tree by diameter classes per unit area. And standing timber volume in a forest, the volume of the trunk and branches of tree of sufficient diameter and for farm for conservation into saw timber. Stock table, the distribution of the volume of tree by diameter classes per unit area. Stratification, a pre-sowing procedure which involves the storing of seed in a moisture medium overcomes seed dormancy, okay. And stringing mixture भने the prepared soil into which cutting are placed. Sucker, a shoot arise from below ground level, either from a rhizome edge with bamboo or from a root. Threatened any taxa that are either critically endangered, vulnerable or susceptible. Viability, the potential capacity of the seed to germinate. And लास्टमा छ vulnerability, a taxon is vulnerability when it is not critical or endangered but it facing a high risk of extinction in the wild in the medium term or if the animal is rare. Okay, thank you.